Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial on header image optimization. Not to be confused with header optimization, which is a coding thing inside WordPress and not part of this tutorial. The header image for this tutorial is this image just here, which is one that I've created myself inside Photoshop. Now we're not going to be going into how to create text over an image, but what we're going to do is we're going to work out what dimensions we need, and then how to optimize that image, the same as we did with various posts where we chose the size of our featured image and the images that we're putting on to the post. So let's get going with it, shall we? The first thing we need to do, I'm not sure what stage you're going to be at with your theme. You might have put your own image in there yourself, or you might have still got the default image in there. If so, that can still be optimized, no doubt. But most people want to customize their site, make it more personal. So what we would do, if we imagine that this was the default image, and we wanted to change it but we wanted to keep the dimensions the same, in this instance we could come onto here and we could right click and go down to view image info, and this will tell us that the dimensions are 1000 by 300. So we just take a note of that. Okay, if you were on a default or you wanted to change themes, then the way to do that would be to come into here and then come down to themes, and then you would choose a theme. For example, let's go with Pilcrow Demo. So rather than activating it, we would just click on live preview, and this obviously gives us a preview of what my site would look like on it, which is to say confusing and not great, but that's not why we're here. What we're here is that this theme has this image, and we want to find out what size this image is so that we can replace that image and keep everything to the right size. So what we do again is we right click on it, we come down to view image info, and we can find out that image is 770 by 200. So if we keep a record of that. Okay, so what you would do is the image that you would create for this size, 770 by 200 pixels, and then you would install it in the manner that we're going to install it. So I'm going to stick with my theme because I'm happy with it, but that just gives you an idea of how you can go about, if you do choose a theme with one of these kind of header images, finding out the size. If you want to keep it the size, you can put larger images in there with some of them. For example, with my theme, you can see here, if you can see here, this was actually the header at the top, so I've put a larger image in here and stretched this area out, which if your theme will allow you to do that you can then do that. The point really is, like, we optimized our images to make them a smaller file size as possible. The dimensions, you have a little bit more control over here if you like. You can make your header as big or as small as you like. Obviously you don't want it too big because it'll overpower the page, but it will also increase your file size. But if you do want a bit more space to work within there, then you quite often can do that. So bear that in mind. What we're really interested in is, once we've selected it, getting the right dimensions, getting everything looking nice for us, but then reducing the file size of the image as we have done with the previous images. So the process is very much similar. There's just a couple of little tweaks to help you do that we're going to do here. So I'm going back to my site. Let's just minimize this down to something manageable. There we go. and I'm just going to basically replace this image with another image. So once you've found your image, I'm going to be using this image here, and I'm just going to crop this down to those dimensions, so it's going to look more like kind of widescreeny like this, and then I'm going to simply pop the image in. So let's get going with it. You need to come over to Photoshop with your image, or GIMP, anything that will allow you to change the dimensions. If you're unsure about that, go back and watch the image optimization videos if you haven't already, and they'll clear everything up for you. There are online tools for it. Obviously I prefer Photoshop because you have more control over various other elements than you do, but GIMP in itself is brilliant. So go to gimp.org if you don't have photo editing software, and also, like I say, go back and look at the other image optimization tutorials if you're not following this one. Right, so we are going to crop this down, but now I know my dimensions because I wrote them down, so they're going to be 1000 by 300. So really the 300 is variable for me because, like I say, I can change the dimensions of this if I want to. I could make it a little bit longer, but I do want to keep it this kind of width because it works with the theme. So the first thing that I'm going to do here, I'm not going to crop, I'm going to make sure that I come into my image size, and I'm going to make sure my width is correct. Everything else kind of stems from there because I want to keep that 1000 the same. So with scale styles ticked and constrain proportions ticked, bicubic sharpener because we're reducing, I'm just going to put in the 1000 here, and then it will automatically adjust this one. There we are. So that's kept everything perfectly in proportion, but it's given me the right length of 1000 across the top. Now I know that I want to get this down to somewhere around about 300 in height, so I can either manually do this. So I can either manually do this by bringing this down to somewhere where I'm happy with it, and then just crop it. Which I would say would be around about there. So I can select that crop and then press enter, and it will crop it for me. Now that's quite a nice size. If I want to check my image dimensions and maybe tweak them a little bit more, I just come into image size. So that was a pretty good guess. That's 1000 by 300. So if I want to make it more exact now, I can unclick constrain proportions, and it will just allow me to change one of these two options up here. Now you wouldn't want to do this if it was too far up because it would warp, but because I'm only changing it by 12 pixels, it's going to have very little difference to the actual integrity of the image. There you go, you see. So I now know that this is 1000 across by 300 down. And the next, as we did with all the other images, now I've got my size, is save for web. I'll just go back for a second. This obviously now, if you wanted to put text across it, if I wanted to put this, Luke Corden, aspirationalist, escaping the slave cycle, one post at a time. If I wanted the header and the tagline in this, this is where I would edit. I would put in a text box. I would have to create a new layer. Put in a text box, and then I can write what I want in here. Now, as this is just a demonstration of how to get the correct file size and the correct dimensions, I'm not going to go through all of the design aspects of it because I'm probably not going to use this picture straight off anyway. but this is the time that you would do it, and it's always worth keeping 2 copies. Have your Photoshop copy if you're using Photoshop, and then the flattened image copy that you're going to be saving out as a JPEG that you'll use. It's always worth flattening the image because that will save you extra size as well. So I'm just going to delete these. And now, in fact, what we will do is I'll just show you that process. So let's just go to there you go. So this would be here. If I wanted to move it around, obviously I could position it where I wanted, and you can put your headline up here, and you can do anything you like in here. And then once I was happy with that, I would then just come over here. I'd select these 2 together. So you select one, and then you can Command Control click on the other, so they're both selected. Then you can right click, and then you'd go flatten image, and that would reduce the file size, remove all of the layers, and then you could go across and save it for web. Now I'm not going to do that here, but that's the way you would go about it, basically. Okay, so we've got our image, we've got the right dimensions for it. We're now going to save it for the web. Generally the file size is going to be a fair size bigger because it's going to be a much larger image, and you might be inclined to keep a bit of a better quality image for it as well, due to the fact that it's your header. It's going to be the first thing that draws people's attention, but you don't want to go too huge for it. I mean, this is markedly nicer than this one, so maybe I choose this. This is only at 25 quality, so let's go 35, and this might be okay. Let's preview it. Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to be massively happy with it because obviously it's one of my own images and I know what I would like it to look like, but for the sake of demonstration I think this is okay. It's a pretty decent size, so we're going to close that, and now we can save. And if we save this as op header, header image, that will do. Save it in the same images folder as you use for all of your images on your blog, all of your optimized images. Okay, so that's done, that's been optimized, it's been saved. We can now come back to our website and we just come into this menu over here, take customize, and here where we have logo, we can just select it and upload new. Now not all of the themes are going to have this option, so you need to, if you want to be customizing your header, then you need to make sure that you've got the option to do so, and that it's not going to put the theme out of whack too much. So there would be a little bit of experimenting. So here we have our header, very small file size there for a header of 42 kilobyte, and it's as simple as opening, and that should do its thing and upload, and there we have it. Okay, so now should we want to, we will just click save and publish. That's saved. Now we can close out of this, and there we have our new header image. Just give it a refresh, make sure everything's okay. Looks good to me. Okay, good. So there's our header. Perfectly well optimized, nice lightweight, fast rendering, fast loading image header that looks nice across our site. And that is essentially it, guys. Like I say, if you want to add your homepage title or anything in here, the world is your oyster. You can put whatever you like in there. Just make sure when you do, you flatten it down at the end to save yourself the bother of the excess weight to the file size. But keep 2 copies. Keep one unflattened and use the flattened one for your header. That way, if you want to come back in, quite often you need to rearrange the text on things to get it in the right place. You can do it without too much trouble or without having to do it all over again. That's essentially it. So thanks for stopping by this tutorial. I hope it's been helpful. And enjoy making your headers, getting your site looking nice. And I will see you in the next video.